So this is how it all began. Turrican 1, the first of the classic Turrican trilogy on the Amiga. The first technical question that arises is right at the very start, and look at the background. So the colors all change there. So it's a 16 color 4-bit playing game, 16 colors for the main area, and then 16 plus a copper one here for the HUD. So keep your eye on this blue color here when we fall back into the cave. See that? It changes. So it's this color right here that is the sky. You might have also seen right there how this green turned to red. So the green is your health there. And yeah, when it goes down, it turns red, so the palette changes. You might have also noticed that you could still see your player when the palette visualizer was up. That's because he's a sprite. So if you take the 4-bit planes off, you can see that sprite 0 and 1 are attached 15 colors, 16 pixels across. And then sprite 2 and sprite 3 are also attached 15 colors. So these 32 pixels across 4 sprites. And when you turn into the star, it's those same 4 sprites. And then sprites 6 and 7 are your Mega Blast weapon. Just like in Turrican 2, which I also did a video on, I'll put the link to that in the description. You can see right away that the game is really well programmed by Holger Schmidt because it's 50 frames per second all the time, even with lots and lots of enemies on the screen. With the blitter visualizer on, you can see that all the enemies are being blit. And then on the right, the tiles are coming in a little strip. And when you jump and when you fall also. So they call that the corkscrew method of 8-way scrolling. And Factor 5 had a big hand in pioneering that, I think. And they helped other people with it afterward, gave people tips about how to do it, and then it became quite common. So your weapon and all your shots are being blit, and if you hold down the fire button, the classic Turrican weapon here, all being blit. And the whole waterfall too is being blit, and always maintains 50 frames per second, with a visible area of 304 by 215, and without the HUD, the playable area is 304 by 180. The fist boss is also a big blit. This is kind of cool. When you jump to the top of the water, it blits a little splash. Now this level I always thought was the prettiest, and it's also the most technically interesting. So before, as you know, the main character was a sprite, but now when I play it, look at that. He's a Bob. So why is that? Well, if I take off all the sprites, you'll see they're being used for the background here. So sprite 2 and 3 are attached 15 color, 16 pixel across sprites, and so are sprite 4 and 5 and 6 and 7. So that makes up the whole sprite background, and when you play it, they also animate. So before, if you remember, your player was sprite 0, 1, 2, and 3. So now that the background requires 6 sprites, the 4 of the player don't fit. So you have to make it a blitter object or a bob. But the interesting thing is that sprite 0 and 1 still make up the Mega Blast weapon. So they were still able to utilize all 8 sprites in this level. And it's also very impressive how it scrolls slightly horizontally and not just vertical. So unlike before, the copper is getting a huge workout in this level. So you can see right here is sprite 2 position, sprite 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then back to 2, 3, all the way across. In fact, I was amazed with my last video doing the midline swaps in dual playfield for 534 colors. That used 9,000 slots per frame of the copper. But Turrican here is using a whopping 15,400 slots per frame. So yeah, it's hard to see, but that says 15,400. And the blitter isn't 0, but when you pause it, it always goes to 0. So if I play it, you can see the blitter is also going. So the idle frames gets down to 6,000 at a time. So here's the final boss, and he's another big blit, and always stays at 50 frames per second. So yep, continues to impress. Even the final jet sequence is 50 frames per second. Look at that. Right to the very, very end. So yeah, let me know what your favorite game out of the trilogy is. It's actually 4 parts because there's Turrican 2 AGA, and that one might actually be my favorite. But I enjoyed them all. One thing I always wonder is I don't think Manfred Trenz actually did any of the programming. I'm not sure if he ever programmed the Amiga at all. I know he was a big Commodore 64 guy, and then he went on to do Rendering Ranger on the Super Nintendo, which is probably the Super Nintendo's most technically impressive game. So it would have been amazing to see if Manfred would have tried programming the Amiga itself and seeing what he could have created. I guess it's never too late, Manfred, if you're listening. So thanks so much for watching. Always appreciate it. Please like and subscribe and comment if you haven't. Till next time, take care.